This is the student panel discussion. It's a follow-up to the panel discussion we had a couple weeks ago on race and sports at Albright. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm not sure whether I was muted or not. Amina, you were with us at for that panel discussion. So was AJ, who hopefully will be joining us today. I'm just going to give you guys, a few seconds just to introduce yourself. Tell us your name, what you're studying, and what sport you play at Albright. So I will be calling you based on how you appear on my screen, beginning with you, Amina.
Hi guys, my name is Amina. I'm a junior, and my major is biochemistry, and I'm on the women's basketball team.
Thank you, Amina. Next is Teray.
Hi, I'm Trey. I'm a senior. I play for the women's lacrosse team, and I study computer science.
Thank you. Troy was with us, but I think he's having some internet.
He's going to go out and come back in and see if that'll fix it.
Okay, that sounds good. I'm just going to introduce myself. I'm Chaplain Ibi. I'm one of the interim chaplains at Albright, and I've been here at Albright since the spring of 2019. AJ is here with us. I think he's connected. AJ, do you mind to take a couple seconds, introduce yourself, tell us who you are and what sport you play and what your major is at Albright?
My name's Armand. I'm a senior here. I'm on a football team, psychology major. What else did you say? That was it?
That was it, man. That was it.
Can anyone hear me now?
Absolutely, Troy. Go ahead.
Okay, my name is Troy Smoot. I'm a senior. I'm from Maryland, and I'm on the basketball team.
Okay, guys. So we're going to jump into this, and I want to thank all the participants for being here. I want to say a special thank you to Beth, who you can't see, but she's been an amazing partner throughout all of this. So we're going to jump into this. So here's my first question to you, and any one of you can start this. Start answering this question. Can you share with us your experience as a student athlete at Albright? More specifically, as a student athlete of color at Albright. Let me be a little bit more more specific with that. So any one of you can start answering.
What was the question? One more time, I'll answer it.
Yeah, can you share with us your experience as a student athlete at Albright?
Okay, so my experience here at Albright being a student athlete is it's fairly cool. I mean, I feel like we do have some sort of privilege, like as far as things go around campus, as far as classes go, or getting into a certain class. I feel like we do have privilege in that way, but as far as being treated differently, as far as being of color, I feel like everything is fair. As far as I feel like, I don't know how everyone else feels, but I feel like everybody's given a fair chance for playing time, to make the team, to do well in the team. You know what I'm saying? So I like it. I'm comfortable here at Albright and being an athlete.
Muted. I agree with Troy. I think that we're pretty much treated like everybody else. But I know some students who probably wouldn't think that, and we also do have privilege or whatever. But other than that, it's pretty nice. I'm comfortable as well.
I think overall, my experience has been positive. A lot of my coaching staff is really supportive of the student aspect of being a student athlete. So it's not like they put athletics or anything over our education. So I think I have pretty balanced life between being a student and being an athlete. And from the field perspective, it's all about doing as best you can. So it's not really like you get a better chance if you're this color or whatever. And for me, classes have been more focused on like what we're learning rather than like opportunities. So I think everything is for me has been positive. I have no complaint.
I think it's an overall positive experience as well. I haven't experienced any like unequal or unfair treatment based off of just being black, you know. So I got no complaints. I am comfortable here. I feel like I don't know. I feel like there'll always be a difference though, regardless if there is not like one or not. Just off the strength of being black. I don't know. I feel like even if you don't, I don't know how to put it. Maybe if you're not actually are, I feel like that thought is always in the back of your head that you are still being looked at differently. So, but I haven't experienced any of that. I don't know. It's just a thought that was in my head.
I feel what you're saying, honestly, I agree too, because it's like at the end of the day, like if you're not black, you're not going to know how it feels to be black in America or in the world today. So like in the back of your mind, you always got to remember like, well, you're going to be looked at differently regardless, no matter where you go. Even if people might say they're not looking at you differently, they really are. So at the end of the day, I always have that. Like, I have to remember, like, I can't, like, say things a certain way because I'm black and I'll be looked at differently. Like, this is, like, some real stuff, like, just, like, when you're black, you have to be cautious of, like, basically everything you do because you can get judged or looked at differently so quick and things can happen differently in a matter of seconds just because the color of your skin.
That's very true.
Like you subconsciously limit yourself to do certain things or say certain things.
I mean, I'm the type of person who always is going to say what's on my mind no matter what. But, like, I feel like sometimes I might not be able to, not saying that I'm being cautious at all times, but, like, basically knowing how to move when, you know, I'm around different groups of people and stuff like that. Like this. You guys should know what I mean by that.
Well, you guys, you said a few things that I want to push. I would like to press into in just a little bit. But before we go into that, I want to take a minute to talk to all the participants. Please feel free to engage our panelists. Feel free to send your question in the Q&A, and I will be able to ask your questions to the panelists. So you've said some incredible things in the last few minutes, and I want us to unpack those just a little bit. The word privilege have been said a few times. The word fairness has also been said a few times. And I think part of what I'm hearing is that I think it's Amina and even perhaps Teray that said we get some, or maybe Troy that said we get some privileges because we're athletes. And then on the other hand, I hear the kind of the thoughts of being, because I'm black on campus, whether I'm an athlete or not, I still have to be careful. I still have to present myself a certain way. I have to be extra careful. So let's talk about that, the balance between the privilege of being an athlete and the cautiousness of being black on campus. How do those two go together? And also, how different do you think your experience would have been as a black student if you were not playing sport here at Albright?
I figured I'd let one of y'all spark this one off.
So I think it's very different. It's a difference between like the people on campus who are athletes and who are people of color, and the people on campus who aren't athletes and are people of color. I feel like we have two different experiences. It may be the same in some aspects, but like they don't get the attention we do, if that's If
Yeah.
you understand what I'm saying. I think that's
Um,
honestly the main difference between.
I think that because we play sports, we're easier to recognize. Like if you play like a consistent starting spot, everyone's gonna know who you are, whether that be regular students or public safety or whoever is on campus. And I think because of that, like recognition, we don't have to have as much subconscious like weight on our shoulders because they're like they know me, they know I'm an athlete, so it's like a bit of a that's the privilege side. But then the balance is you still have to frame yourself in like the classroom environment because it's not like teachers are going to be like, oh, she plays this sport, so let me be nice to her. It's more like I have to maintain this, I guess, hesitation at some things. Not like hesitation, like I speak the way I speak, but I know that in certain places not everything should be said. So it's like that understanding in the classroom and in like certain groups of people is what I focus on sometimes. And then like other times I'm like, okay, I may or may not be able to do this because these people know who I am and they know my coach and everything. So that's where I think the balance between the privilege of being an athlete and being a regular student come in.
I agree with that as well. And another thing I feel like is being being a regular student and being like a student athlete here is different because, like Teray said, that people all know who you are. So people are like basically have their eyes on you basically everywhere you go, anything you're doing. So it's like you gotta be like on point. Like they expect you, being a student athlete, to basically set the tone for like other kids. Like just like it is in high school, it is in college. Like if a regular student may see me on the basketball team and I'm in my Zoom class, my camera's off, it's supposed to be on, I'm not doing this and not doing that. Like as a regular student, I know I would feel some type of way if the teacher didn't say anything to the student athlete, but when I would do it, if I would do it, then it would be a problem. Like certain things like that. So like my coach tells me all the time, like people know who you are, they're watching me, people always say stuff to me about you guys. Like even if we're doing something positive, like people just know. And like this is a small school, so word travels fast around here. So I just feel like even as a student athlete and not just a Black person, we have to be on our P's and Q's.
Yeah, I agree with all that. Um, I feel like basically like being a student athlete and a student, like if you walk into um like a classroom as a student athlete and then like obviously like they said that everyone knows who you are. I feel like every like a professor maybe is looking at you like they place you under this like stereotype of a student athlete. They're like, oh, like she's on this team. Like they try to uh kind of like assume how your academic performance is based off that like title you have, whether that's being like Black or not. It's just the fact that you're a student athlete. So I feel like you do have to create a balance and let them know like you're not here just to play a sport. You're here to get an education as well.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. We have a question from from one of our participants, and the question is: do your coaches help create a positive environment for non-athletes to get for non-athletes that don't have the experiences that you have? Let me repeat it again. Do your coaches, or how do your coaches create positive environment that your fellow non-athletes for your fellow non-athletes that don't have the experience that you, the athletes, have?
I think I think it's more of like, oh, okay, so one thing about like being on an athletics team is that we're a team. So like we like know each other and like we have each other at the end of the day. Like a lot of students come here and like some people do struggle to like find friends and stuff. So I feel like when you are a part of an athletics team, like your coaches do influence that, like a unity, like a family type bond. So I think that's the difference between like how like we feel, like how coaches help us, and then besides like regular students.
I think it's difficult for coaches to bring in like welcoming, like if coaches are not interacting with students on a regular, like if they're not a teacher or they're not just regularly on campus, I think it's hard for them to make everyone who's not an athlete feel like that the same experience we have, because we spend time with our coaches almost every day. They're always in Schumer or on the field or in the gym. So it's more so we have that connection and we see them more often. Regular, like non-athletic students don't really get to interact with coaches as much. So I think it's hard for them to like feel the experiences we have rather than us reaching out, like regular students reaching out to athletic students. I think there's like levels to how our experiences can connect.
I agree with that. She was saying, it's like we're with our coaches more. They don't necessarily like, I mean, yeah, if the coach is on campus, they'll like say hello, she'll be like, be polite, stuff like that. But um I don't really think they can have like the same type of experiences just off the how much like time we are with each other, like the difference and all that stuff. So, but I feel like they definitely like will like give an opportunity and stuff like that. They will reach out, be polite, and show like the same type of respect stuff they treat us with, regardless of if you're like one of their players or not.
Well, that's great. I have a second question. This also from one of our participants. Do you think that the advancement in technology and social media has changed the way you behave as an athlete of color?
No, not necessarily. I feel like with like you just said, the advancement of technology and social media, on like an aspect of like being a student athlete, I mean, you're always like told to like not post anything like dumb or anything that could make you look bad or give like a bad like impression and like a reflection on your team. But also like in regarding stuff that's posted on social media about like race and whatnot, I feel like I don't see like a difference. I'll probably like post it anyways. Like it's no difference with like the advancement and whatnot.
I agree. I didn't know if you were gonna say that question, so I answered it, but I typed my answer in the Q&A. Sorry.
I think I feel a bit more supported by the advancement of technology, because it's like if I like feel something about like a said event that happens and I post it, I feel like there's more likely a chance where I can connect with people in that sense. So I think it's a positive in the sense that I feel like more connected to a community that understands me.
Yeah. Well, this question or your answer kind of gives me a very good segue to one of the questions I want us to discuss. So, a few weeks ago, or about a month ago, we saw kind of a massive wave of protests in the sport world that started with players in the NBA, and then we saw it move from one sport to the other. That was not the first time, that was not new, but that took kind of a different turn and got national attention in such a unique way. So, can you walk me through when you saw those protests for the first time as a student athlete of color? How did that make you feel? What was that for you? Did you feel well? I'm not even gonna put words in your mouth. Just walk me through how that made you feel as a student of color that plays sport at a college.
I think that in my head I'm thinking like, oh, it's kind of like it's about time that they said something, because I feel like athletes who are like on a bigger platform than we are, like should use their platform like to like express their views, express their like their beliefs and stuff. Like, I mean, yeah, that's that's basically it. Like they're but yeah, that's basically it. Like they should be posting, like they should be using their platform for a positive reason. So yeah, that's what I think about that.
I agree. And when I seen that, like, it kind of made me feel good, like there's somebody that is above me in a way, is, you know, protesting and saying how they feel, and you know, speaking their mind on how they feel about a certain situation. And that made me feel like, I don't know, made me feel more together, I guess.
Yeah.
I agree with everything. I feel like you look at it and it's like kind of like what Amina said, like finally, it's like, and then again what Troy said, it's like people are at these like bigger schools than us, so you know they got like a bigger grasp on like the world just because they have a bigger platform than us. So like yeah, and seeing all that stuff, everybody come together, it was just yeah, it just makes you feel good to know there's so many people there to support you.
Yeah. Let me add to that question before the rest of you answer that, and then come back to that. What impact do you think those protests? Uh, what impact do you think they have on you as an individual, and perhaps on your team, or even on sports at Albright as a whole, if any?
I think that the more people and the more sports and the more teams that began to protest force people to like see what the actual protest is, because if it's one person or one team, then it's limited to that viewer and those people, those fans. But if the more teams and more athletics and more athletes protest, the more it has to open that range of like exposure. So the more people have to have to see it, because if I'm protesting and I'm this big sport and I'm on TV, it's most likely going to hit more and more people rather than just stay secluded in one like group of people. You're still muted.
Yeah, thank you for that. That happens a lot. So that's really very so for a lot of people that play sport, because I have friends who played sport in college, and I've had several conversations with them, and one of the things that they felt like um, it's a level of pressure that has been taken off their shoulders for them to be able to express themselves and speak up for what they believe is right. Do you feel that seeing other people protesting and other people speaking up and uh, speaking on topics where in the past you've heard the phrase as an athlete, just shut up and play your sport? Do you feel that this recent protests have created space for you to express yourself, like perhaps that you may have not been able to do in time past, whether it's you or friends or or your team?
I feel like that question can go both ways. I like so like yes and no. So like as far as the pressure, like for me personally, no. But like you can't, regardless if someone is, black or white or whatever it may be, you can't really tell them what to believe in. So like if they don't like if they're necessarily like, yeah, they could support it, but if they're not necessarily like someone to want to be that I don't know how to describe it, like some people don't like voicing their opinions, I guess they get like scared. So like if they see everyone else doing it, yeah, they can feel the pressure. Even like scared of how they're going to be looked at if they do versus if they don't. But for me, I don't really care. I never really care what people thought, so I kind of just do what I want. But yeah, I feel like that depends on the person regarding the feeling pressure and after seeing these protests. And then yeah.
I agree with like the pressure being relieved from people because like being in certain situations, like when you have a certain amount of friends that are like white or black, it you tend to like not always check on the little things. Like if someone says something that's like subtly like a microaggression, you're not gonna like pinpoint it, be like, hey, stop that. But now it's like you have to understand, because if you say that in any other situation, it's gonna be a negative for like that group of people. And I think that seeing people protest and see people being open about like racism and all that allows me to be better at educating. But at the same time, I tend to feel like it isn't necessary for me to do that, because it's all this exposure and all these people being able to see this. People should be able to understand and research it themselves. Yeah.
Mm. Um, Tari, you said something that I would like to come back to. I would like to give the rest of you an opportunity to answer that question. And you said something that I want to come back to. Okay.
For me, I've always been the type of person to like always like say something about it. Like if I were to hear something that like wasn't appropriate, like I would always say something. But it really hasn't changed like how like I express like say like my race or like express my views about like injustice. Also, I think that but also on the other hand, I think that like seeing more people open about it is like a really good thing, and it actually is a bit of like a warming, like comforting, because like, oh, they're talking about it, so like I don't feel like I'm being extra, like I'm just saying how I feel, and they are listening.
So, Tari, you mentioned something really interesting, and you use, if I can probably quote you directly as much as possible, you said you feel like people should, you don't, you feel like this is not something you should do, like educating people. You feel like people should be at the point where they research for themselves and learn, learn more about race. Do you feel like, because I feel that recently I've had to do a lot of educating for people, and I mean, including myself. As a student, I'm sure that's kind of an added pressure for you. Do you feel the need, like recently, do you feel like there's an increase in the need for educating people about race, uh, whether it's overt or the micro? I've heard you said, maybe a couple of you used the word microaggression, and is that a big thing here? First, a microaggression is a big thing here at Albright, at least in your experience. And second, do you feel like there's an increased need for you to educate whether your coaches or friends or faculty and staff on how to approach Blacks at Albright? And this is
Uh,
an open question for all of you.
Teray.
Teray, sorry.
Yeah, you're okay. I think microaggressions are a thing at Albright because I don't think people are openly racist. I don't think someone's just like, Black people suck. I think there's more like stereotypes in people's brains that are always happening whenever they look at certain Black people. Like, oh, this was a joke on one thing, so maybe I think this is how Black people act. So I think microaggressions are big everywhere, not just here. I also don't think I don't think there's a need for me to educate people. I think there's a need for education. Like I'm always willing to answer questions from time to time, but I don't want to be like everyone's Google, so to speak. Like I ask, like recently, since everything's been happening, I've been asked certain questions And sometimes I answer them, and sometimes I send a link to somewhere that they can look up themselves, because if I can take my time and figure out the answer to these things, so can anybody. So there are times when I feel like I can, and there are times where I'm too overwhelmed to put myself out of place to answer a question for someone else.
Mm.
So it really depends on how I feel as to regards to the pressure of answering questions and things like that.
I think microaggressions exist everywhere. I agree, because like it's not just at Albright, and it's not like some people do it intentionally. I mean, some people do it intentionally, but most of the time it's not intentional. And like when you're like actually listening to somebody say something, you have to like think like maybe they don't know, because some people really just don't know. And I think that it's important for them to educate themselves, because like she said, we're not Google. Like we're not Wikipedia. Like we can't speak for every Black person. You know, we're not all the same. So it's definitely important for people to educate themselves on things and get other people's perspectives, instead of like just acting like they're one Black friend.
Mm.
You put that very well, Amina.
Yeah, I'm agree with Troy on that one. I don't have more to be said on the matter.
That's okay, man. That's okay. So we have a question from the audience, and I'm going to try to paraphrase it. Basically, do you have safe spaces, whether it's with teachers or friends, where you can express matters on race without fear or feeling like you're being judged?
Oh, well, personally for me, like I just feel like I'll say whatever I feel like needs to be said at the time, or whatever the situation is. I don't really have a problem having fear of talking about how I feel on the situation, or the topic of the situation, and this topic being race. Is I feel like if there's something that needs to be said, or I feel like it's important for someone to hear or others to hear around me, I'll say it. Like I wouldn't be scared to say anything about, race, or how I feel about, a certain individual and how they feel. Like I just feel like I wouldn't be scared to speak my mind at all. But that's just the type of person I am. But I know some people that probably would shy away from it, and they don't really like confrontation. Not saying that your your words can be confrontational, but you never know what it could create.
Yeah, I agree with Troy. Sometimes it's like hard to bring up certain things that you see with like anybody on your team. I feel comfortable bringing up issues of importance to me to my coaches and a select number of my teammates, because I know they understand where I'm coming from, and it's not projecting anything onto them. It's saying something as a whole that is unacceptable in my mind. So I feel comfortable speaking to my coaches and my teammates sometimes.
I definitely have talked to my coaches about things that regard like race and social issues, and something that I personally do. I rather really talk to somebody who I feel like would be able to understand me, but in certain aspects, I would like to talk to people who also have different perspectives than me as well. So when it comes to talking about issues of race and like injustice, I do want to get everybody's opinions, but um, when I feel like I have issues that maybe only someone like me would understand, I'll talk to someone who's just like me.
Yeah, I feel I feel comfortable talking to my coaches and like, you know, like Teray said, some teammates. Um, I feel like they do provide that kind of safe space where we can come and speak our minds without being judged. Um, but then like I see some like says like, you know, teachers and stuff like that. I feel like that just comes from like exposure. So like we're with our teachers for like a certain amount of time, especially now with everything being online and via Zoom. You don't have that face-to-face contact that you do with your coach, and like that you have over the past couple of years. You know, we get new teachers every day or every year, every semester. First sometimes it may be your first time meeting them. You know, I know they all encourage like if we never need anything, we come speak out. But it's just a point of like familiarity and like being comfortable. Like we're always around our coaches, we more feel comfortable speaking to them in in regards to being like a teacher or something like that. So I feel like you can speak to a teacher, but I feel like you don't see that as often just off of that not being as comfortable, just off of how you're not with them as much. But I feel like that's only if, like Amin said, you do want to talk to someone that can kind of like understand where you're coming from, but then you also want that other person that will like challenge your view on it and force you to see it from a different perspective. And I think personally, like yeah, like I have coaches on my staff uh that will offer that challenge that you need so you can be forced to see it from a different perspective and not just out of your own eye. And yeah.
One of the things that y'all alluded to earlier was the fact that I was a black student at Albright. Well, as a black student or black person generally, you have to put up a certain front depending on where you are and who you're with. Teray, one of the things you mentioned was like this is how I talk. I talk how I talk, but in some cases there are some things you can say and some things you cannot say, and those are expectations that are not well, whether they're placed on you by yourself or by other people or by society. Um, can you talk me through that? Like how what the unfairness of that, the fact that you have to in a way be someone else to fit in a certain space or be someone else in order not to offend other people or not to be judged by other people. Can you walk me through that, especially as a student of color at Albright?
Um, um, as a student of color, I don't really put on the front for anybody. Like, I mean, there's certain things like you don't say because it can come off as like rude, or disrespectful. But when it comes to like putting like a mask on and trying to act like something you're not, no, I wouldn't do that because like I'll be doing myself a disservice because I wouldn't be acting like who I truly am. And also, I feel like it would be disrespectful of other people to try and make me act like somebody I'm not. So yeah.
I don't personally change who I am as a person. I just change how I say things because me speaking to another black person that I know, I will throw in my own like learned language, like the slang from where I'm from and all that. And then speaking to certain people that aren't that black person, it'll be kind of awkward because it's like I have to re-explain what this word or such means. That's why I tend to change how I say certain things because that is a lot of work in itself. And yeah, that's mostly it. I don't really change based on like someone else's feelings. I change based on whether or not they'll understand me or I'll have to put in the extra work to explain it to them.
I agree with that. It's like you gotta kind of like it's mostly like knowing your audience. So like she said, like if I'm speaking to like another black person or someone from home or whoever that may be, like it's just like the learned like slang you're gonna say is gonna be different, and you don't have to explain it because they just know what you mean. Versus like me and my coach, like, we got like I'll be talking to him, like I feel comfortable with him, so I don't So like I just speak and the words just come out of my mouth, and he'll just be looking at me like smiling, and he'll be like, I don't know what the hell you just said. So like I gotta explain further and like break it down to like, you know what I mean? So like it's different all around. Not changing like who you are. It's just like you gotta know your audience, because like not everybody's gonna know what you're talking about. Not everybody knows like that type of language you use. And that's on the strength of being black versus being white.
Yeah, so a couple of you have mentioned knowing your audience, and I feel like that's a two-way street, right? So, and you mentioned just conversation with your coaches. Troy, I see you're unmuted. I'm gonna pause. Let you answer that question before I ask a follow-up question to that.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I agree with Armand, because like you just can't, I don't know, everyone is different, but back to what Teray said, she's not going to just, like, there's certain things that need to be said or can be said around a certain group of people. And like, so you kind of have to like pick and choose. Like, it's kind of hard to explain, but I feel like people should know what I'm talking about. Like, everybody should be able to know what I'm talking about. Like, you would talk differently to your friends than to your parents. So you would talk more formal to your coaches or to, staff of Albright than you would talk to students at Albright. Like, just simple stuff like that, I feel like.
So here's another question. I'm going to pull you a little bit from your athlete role, and this is a question for us, perhaps a feedback for us as someone who's in staff at Albright. How equipped, based on what you just said, AJ, and that's so true. Sometimes you have to know who your audience is and how you address them, and sometimes your audience also need to know who you are and how also to address you and work with you. How equipped do you think we are as a college to help students of color thrive, whether it's in sport or in academia or just general at Albright, and even beyond their college years?
I can't really speak on all Black experience at the college itself, because I personally haven't had too many issues with support and with like my sport or my academics. But I think overall, just taking Black students more seriously in certain situations, like if there is a complaint or if there is a struggle, taking in what they're saying and applying what you can to those struggles rather than just overviewing them as another struggle or whatever. And I think being sensitive to those of color would be really helpful in supporting Black people on campus and on any campus.
I agree with that. It's like I feel like staff or like coaches here at Albright, they have like more resources than we have. So like if we come to them with an issue, they can voice our issues to someone higher up than even them. So like give us the opportunity to be heard and stuff like that. And just like being equipped, I feel like you can only like that comes with exposure, like dealing with like other Black people. So I feel like more and more each year, like with each conversation, with each like exposure to like some Black person and just speaking to them, like they're learning at the same time. So, and learning basically how to better deal with and accommodate to like there's specific people's issues based on their race. And like I was saying with like the conversation, like if I'm speaking to my coach, like and I'll explain it, like he learns it, you know what I mean? So like I won't have to explain it again. Like if I say it again, like now he'll understand. And then like it becomes like, I don't know, I guess you could say like you rub off on them too, right? As much as like they come off on you. So like now like he'll speak to me as I would speak to him. You know what I'm saying? So like it's that point of being comfortable. I don't have to worry about like my words and like how I'm talking, like, you know what I mean? So I know he will understand what I'm saying, and obviously everyone can infer like how people are saying as in your confrontational or make their different emphasis on what you said, and that may not be your intention. So you do have to be careful in that respect of like choosing your words precisely, so like they know so they can have a clear understanding of what you mean. But I feel like the staff, personally, I haven't had, like I said, I haven't had any experience with or trouble with being Black just in general. But I feel like staff is getting more equipped as time goes, and these issues continue to rise. And then they're going out their way to speak to us about it so they can be better equipped, and then they're also going out on their own so they can help and better be prepared for a situation like this to come.
I think that I really don't have no issues in saying being Black on campus. I don't have no issues. But regarding support, I think there could be more support. I feel like people should show more empathy towards us for real, because they don't know what it's like. They don't know what it's like to be Black at all, and I feel like we can't even adequately explain that because everybody's experience is different. So I feel like the level of empathy and support should increase at Albright. But regarding just being Black, I feel like there's no issues. I don't feel like people treat me differently.
So a couple of you have mentioned empathy, support. What would that look like, or how differently would that look like from what you're experiencing now? What kind of support, what kind of empathy do you think we as staff, faculty, administration, what would those support and empathy look like to you? Whether to you as an athlete or to you, or more specifically to you as a student of color at Albright?
I don't think it can be just one thing, just one space or one action that could make the staffing and everyone be more empathetic and everything to Black people. I think it's something that you have to do consistently. It's doing something every day, reaching out to a person of color every day, just asking them how are they, not being tedious, how do you feel about this racial injustice that happened yesterday, but being open to listening and inquiring about them rather than waiting for a Black person to have an issue and then come to you to solve it. Being active in Black student athletes' lives, because I feel like being attentive to Black students and Black struggles is important, because racial injustice happens every day. It's not today it's going to happen and then it's not going to happen tomorrow. It happens consistently every day. So being attentive to those situations and being attentive to the students of color would be the best way for faculty and coaches and staff like that to support Black people. Because I don't think you can make a space specifically for Black people. I mean, you could, but how often would people use that space? And if you did make that space, how would the staff there support Black people just because the space is there? I think it has to be more on a personal level rather than just one fix it all.
Anyone would you like to add to that?
I feel like she just hit it spot on, to be honest with you.
All right, so I think most of you we're almost at that time now, but I think you're either senior or junior, right? I'm not sure.
Yes.
And so in the sport world, we will say you're a senior member of the team. What do you think your role is now, not only as a student athlete, but as a senior in the academia or just a senior or junior in general? What do you think your role is to the incoming class, or those, or the sophomore? What do you think your role is as a student of color to those that are coming up after you?
I think we just have to set an example, like set the bar high. So like when people come here, like they're high expectations. Like they need to work hard to get like where they want to be, and like specifically people of color, just being open, feeling comfortable. I feel like if we give that like vibe off, if we give that energy off, then I think that people coming in will definitely be more comfortable and definitely be more open and talking about issues that we deal with.
Yeah, I feel like just having that title and that status that like makes people look up to you more just off of how you've been here. Like, for example, like whether that's like for athletics, that's like incoming freshmen or like potential recruits that may be I've had like occasions where like other black like incoming freshmen or like recruits or whatever have like reached out to me like on Twitter or something, like DM me, and like even like sometimes like, well, back before COVID, when we had like people would come visit up here in person and like they would have me like host them and stuff like that. I feel like especially between like the black, like other black ones, it's like I always feel that question always comes up where it's like, how is it like up here, like in terms of like being black, like, how do they treat, like, is it okay, like how is that, you know what I mean? So like I mean, instead just like being open and really like letting them know like how you feel about being up here, that will kind of give them more like a sense of being more comfortable when they are to come up here. And then when they are up here, you know what I mean, they still look at you just because you hold that like higher rank, I guess you could say, at being like a senior, junior, senior. So you just have to be open, because like if they, and let it be known, if they have questions they can come to you, you know what I mean? So like, and that you'll be always there to answer it.
I agree, Armand, because when some recruits come that are African American, I get those types of questions too. But normally, I just tell them how I feel, and then they just get a firmer grasp on how things are up here as far as being black and stuff like that. So it gives them a sense of relief. And even when I came for my visit, that was a question that I asked.
Muted.
Thank you. I was saying I really appreciate you, the four of you, Amina, AJ, Tere, and Troy. Just a quick announcement for you and for our participants. On Monday at 11:30, we have our community panel discussion, and that's going to focus on housing and campus safety. And it's going to be really, really exciting. Monday at 11:30. The email has already been sent. We'll probably, just go back to your emails, and it's a Zoom link, and we hope that you can join us. And once again, I want to thank you. You are some courageous young people, and keep doing what you're doing. Keep mentoring younger students, and keep standing up for justice. I appreciate your time. I also want to say thank you to Beth, who is behind the scene managing this whole thing. I want to thank all our participants for being here. Have a wonderful weekend and a great rest of your semester.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. You too.